Good to go. Hi, everyone. My name is Jackie Beckwith, and I am the Manager of Advocacy and Government Relations at the Association for Unmanned Vehicle Systems International. Quite a mouthful, but we basically advocate for all things unmanned in the air, maritime, and ground realms. But today, we're excited to focus on unmanned systems in the air, commonly known as drones. And this is perfect timing because National Drone Safety Awareness Week is actually starting November 16th. Second annual, co-hosted with the FAA and a few other association partners. And I have with me here today some fantastic council members from the city of Tacoma, Washington, one of the best in the country without a doubt. So I would like to toss it off to Councilmember Hunter to introduce herself, and then we'll get started talking about the important work they are doing in ensuring drone safety.
Well, Jackie, thanks for having us here today as we get prepared to recognize National Drone Safety Awareness Week. And I think it's probably the first time that this is on Tacoma's radar screen, and hopefully, and our intent is that it will be permanently on Tacoma's radar screen, if you will. So our interest in drone legislation, drone safety actually harkens back to outreach from a constituent who reached out to me and also to Councilmember Hines, and asked some questions about, do we have any regulations with regards to drones? Is it just a free-for-all? And had a neighbor that I think was probably, he was being very diplomatic when he called me, but I think his neighbor's kid's drone was driving him a little bit crazy. So we got on, we thought about that and thought, you know, we have these, it's a great era that we live in with all of this technology and all these toys that come our way, but with those great things also comes some responsibility. So we, for example, in Tacoma, we're big on micromobility, and we've got these little motorized scooters that people can jet around on. But we also have some safety regulations about that too. And so this is kind of in line with that. Both John and myself are educators. I'm a retired teacher principal, and John is still fully in the game here with Tacoma Public Schools. So we wanted to learn as much as we could about drones and drone safety. And we also wanted to take a look at what the existing rules and regulations were. We're pragmatists. We don't see real need to invent our own rules if there is always already something out there that we can build upon. And that's what happened here with our resolution with regard to drones and drone regulation. We learned that there are indeed rules and regulations about airspace the FAA has put forth. And we also are very aware that we share our airspace with our neighbor and partner, Joint Base Lewis McChord. And so we were also very mindful of, were there any additional regulations? So with that, we did our research. We decided that what we wanted to do was move forward with an educational platform. So we drafted a resolution and move forward pretty much mimicking what the FAA rules and regulations are, but also with a commitment to do an educational outreach to our community about drone ownership, responsible drone ownership, and being a good neighbor. And I'll defer to Councilmember Hines on his experience with his son as actual drone participants there. So that was a long-winded way of saying how we got here, but John, I defer to you and your personal experiences with what it is to have one of those wonderful devices.
Yeah, and thank you, Lillian. And I just to kind of connect to what she had mentioned, we had a constituent reach out to us who had a neighbor who had children that were, buzzing the drone around his property and was really concerned. I also have I have a 7-year-old, and his gift he wanted for his 7th birthday in August was a drone. And so we bought him one, and he flew around our backyard for a while, and then he said, hey Dad, I'd like to go to the park and fly my drone. And at the time I said, well, buddy, I don't know if we can do that or not. I don't know if we're allowed to just go fly a drone in a public space. And he said, well, hey Dad, I mean, you're on the city council. If anybody knows this, shouldn't you know that? I said, well, yeah, you're probably right, bud. And so it kind of timed up really well with what Councilmember Hunter and I were doing with our constituent, where we started looking into kind of what are the requirements. And then we find out things about some of the restrictions around flying in public places and being a good drone operator. And my son, at the end of the day, I said, well, we can't go fly your drone at the park because, there's rules around that. And he was frustrated because he'd seen other kids fly their drones at the park. But I think it lined up really well with our kind of education background that Councilmember Hunter and I have, and looking at how do we kind of educate our public as much as possible. Maybe not adding extra rules and regulations here in the city of Tacoma, but making sure they know what the expectations are so that they can be responsible drone owners. So taking kind of a more proactive education, positive focus. So it's been very good.
I think that's fantastic. And I certainly think that Tacoma is very special, though I would imagine there are many parents, council members, around the country, especially with the holidays coming up, who are looking at getting their kids presents or something like that, but making sure that they maintain safety, which I think is fantastic. So I would be curious to know from you guys how people received this resolution. I mean, were other council members open to it? What has the education effort and outreach been like? I think the site looks fantastic, so congratulations on that. It looks wonderful. But any thoughts on kind of the perception to this resolution?
In the city of Tacoma, with our council work, we are on the council with the various positions. I'm the at-large position, and John has an assigned district. We also have committee work that we do, and there's 4 main committees. So one of those is a committee called Community Vitality and Safety Committee. And this would typically have resided in their domain to research and move forward. But I took a liking to the subject matter, and I also enjoy working with John. So I spoke with Deputy Mayor Blocker, who chairs that committee, and asked if he didn't have any objection, could we just run with it and move it forward and bypass the committee? And then if it got to be more complicated, then we would defer to the committee's review and expertise there. And he was supportive. And one of the things he said, it has never occurred to me to ask about drones. And this is really what, when we talk to staff and each other, and it just is, we're aware of them, and we know, we certainly use them as the city for part of our, promotional activities, our recreational activities, but we never no one really thought to ask the question, what do we do about this? And it was just very timely for John to pick that up. So I think the reaction for the most part has been, we never thought to ask that question. And so this is good information. And how do we help our constituents access that information and know what they need to know to be responsible drone owners, good neighbors? And we also didn't want to dive right in and get hard-nosed and pass and move forward with policy or an ordinance that we would never really be able to enforce. So we decided to take kind of a broader view, step back. We would do an educational piece first. We're also going to be partnering with our local school district because they have a drone construction program in their STEM programs. And then we're going to monitor this, see what the feedback is for the site, see what happens in 6 months, and see what happens in a year. And we're hopeful. It's very promising. It's been well received. It's been well supported. And, people who, I think the main reaction is, we never knew. Who knew? And so as educators, if you didn't know it, well, we are here to help. We are here to help you with your guidance on that.
I do a monthly newsletter that I send out to kind of my constituents. It was funny enough. I think I agree with Councilmember Hunter that, I think it flew below the level of many people. But then when I sent that email out and kind of highlighted what we had done, I kind of got a couple interesting real responses, and it just kind of showed why this information is important. Because I had few constituents who said, why are you regulating this? This is an FAA thing. What's going on? And I could talk about, well, we're not doing anything the FAA wouldn't say. We're just making sure people know what the policies are. And they had other people who I think have had really bad experiences with drones and wondering why we're not doing more. And it's kind of like, well, there's limits to what we can do because of the federal government and their policies, and we're beneath that. But here's what we're doing to educate. So I think it was actually a really good place in those conversations with my constituents to talk about how, I know the concerns that people have about limiting access so much that people can't use them, but also kind of people having issues around privacy and potential impacts and trying to work towards this middle ground of, well, we just want to educate people with what the policies and rules are. Because we, I think Councilmember Hunter and I would agree that, as teachers, the more people know, the better off we all are.
I think it's a wonderful axiom to live by, perhaps a little more difficult in today's kind of oversaturated world of information, and especially such a nascent industry, of the unmanned aerial systems or drones. And so the information that is out there, which all credit to the FAA is fantastic, isn't necessarily the easiest to find. And I think that perhaps, National Drone Safety Awareness Week, its even existence, we're still working on publicizing it and kind of promoting, the resources that are already on offer to folks like yourself and other, leaders around the country, as well as just average Joes who want to, enjoy drones as a part of a recreational activity. So I give you guys huge kudos for doing what you did and for having the foresight to, see what the FAA's got on stack, because they're wonderful. It's just a little difficult to kind of, put that information out there. So if you were to kind of give advice to colleagues in other cities or localities or counties, about next best steps, if these events of both Councilmember Hines, your son, and then also the constituent Councilmember Hunter, those hadn't kind of come together, would you advise cities who aren't dealing with this right now to be proactive about it? Or is it a better wait and see kind of thing? What kind of advice would you give to colleagues?
Go ahead, John. You can start.
Looking at our experience and where we landed, I would say that, being a little more proactive would probably be a good thing. Because where we landed was not in crafting a brand new policy in response to a constituent concern. We landed with providing our residents with the information that's out there. And I think you highlighted a good piece of this, which is the issue wasn't that the regulations don't exist, that the expectations aren't out there. It's just people don't know where they are. And, just trying to get ahead of that. And I think one of the things I keep in my mind is, my son's drone, very small, not like a really fancy one, but those things are coming down in price and they're really cool, to be honest, and we're going to see more of them. And so I think if I was going to recommend to a city council out there, I would much rather I would tell you to be proactive and not have to worry about someone calling you and telling you someone did something wrong with the drone and be surprised. I would say get out ahead of this. They're going to become more popular, especially now that people are more at home more often, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic. Drones are kind of a popular toy. So yeah, the more you can do to be prepared and proactive and educate your citizens, the fewer issues you're going to have to face down the road.
I concur. I have my notes here. Be proactive and don't wait for the drones to be a huge problem, because while our constituent who reached out to us, a great guy who was a little bit peeved, he wasn't really angry. And when you have a large group that starts to get angry about something, then that demands something more significant than what I think we've done here. So as we have the holidays approaching and people are looking at gift giving, and for the reasons that John just articulated, they're coming down in price, they're more accessible. Be proactive and do it sooner rather than later, and then maybe look at your sources where people are getting their drones. I know some of it's probably online. I never did ask you, John, where you guys picked up your drone, but maybe that's one thing we're doing.
Store called Amazon.
Yeah, it's just to reach out to vendors that maybe they could put a little note or something, as they're advertising these, check out what the regulations are in your neighborhood, because the FAA regulations are in everyone's neighborhood, not just ours. I would also say I'm very fond of not reinventing the wheel. And so to other municipalities that are out there, our city staff, I wish that John and I could take full credit for crafting the language and doing the research on there. We have stellar staff that makes us look good, that help push this through at our request and our guidance. And I would invite other municipalities to take a look at the resolution that we passed and start there. And I don't think we own any copyrights here. It's good research and it's a good starting place, as is the website that we have for the informational piece. And I would just encourage you to go the easy route, get started, but just build that awareness and start the educational piece that, if you're going to have one of these nifty little widgets that's flying in the sky, there's some things that you need to know. And so let's get out the gate with that. And it'll just make it better in the long run. Information is power. And usually we use that phrase for things that are a little more meatier than drones, but it applies here too. Know how to be a responsible drone operator.
Yeah. And something I would say that I didn't say earlier, but being a teacher, it's easier to unlearn, or it's easier to not learn a bad habit than unlearn a bad habit, right? So another reason to be proactive is you don't have residents buzzing parks and buzzing picnic areas at your parks or houses. Get out in front of this so they don't start doing that, and then you have to respond, because then you end up with people saying, well, I've been doing that for months and nobody said anything.
I think that's wonderful. Yeah. And, you know, taking the easy way, there are enough difficult things in life. There are enough questions that are yet to be unsolved that where we can kind of take advantage of work that's already done. I think that's wonderful. On that note, I guess the last question and any closing thoughts that you guys might have, but, you know, AUVSI is very happy and proud to partner with the FAA on this kind of educational campaign, but we are only in our second year of doing so. So, you know, as you and your staff were putting this resolution together and doing the research, were there any things that were missing or more difficult than they should have been? Or how would you kind of advise us to continue educating to make sure that, you know, we can avoid any issues that you guys talked about?
I think we're both educators here, and we know that as interesting as education is these days, given the challenges of COVID, nevertheless, most every school district has a STEM program: science, technology, engineering, math. And you've got some interested kids who are interested in drones. And in our neck of the woods, they're building drones, they're flying them, they're doing competitions. I mean, it's certainly taken on a life of its own. If you're wondering where to start, partner as a city or municipality, partner with your school district and start that education piece with the kids, because they are our best ambassadors to go home, talk to parents and say, here's what I learned in school, here's where we can access the information, and go that route. And, you know, our interested kids, our STEM kids who are interested in technology and most specifically here in drones, are going to be our best ambassadors to spread the word about FAA regulations and what it is to be a responsible drone operator and a good neighbor. And if we can get them convinced of that, like with so many other initiatives that we've done in years past, then that's going to seed your project for success there. So we kind of knew about the STEM. I don't know, John, did you bring that to our attention, that the drone program?
Yeah, one of the alternative schools in our school district, that's one of their programs. They help students get licenses so they can fly drones commercially.
So we have the great resource that John is still engaged with the school district and could tell us that. So I would just share that with other municipalities who don't have a John Hines on council or aren't lucky enough to have him there, to reach out to that school district, find out what's going on, find out what they know, and go from there.
Yeah, I think two things I think would be critical for your advocacy organization to be kind of helping with this. Kind of number one is understanding we had staff people look into what the possibilities at each level are, for what we could do at a city level, or what we could do at the state level, or what could be done at the federal level to regulate unmanned flying vehicles or drones. Having some kind of repository of information about what can be done, potential suggested policies that cities can follow, I think always is a valuable thing. I mean, we reached out to some of our statewide municipal agencies, and they kind of gave us some ideas, and this is where we landed. It's one. And then I think to go on with what Lillian was saying, trying to show young people or people that this is more than just like a toy, like it could be a career path. So I think that's what's been really cool. And the high school in Tacoma that does this is our alternative high school. And for a lot of these students, they're very, very engaged with that. And they're actually surprised, I think, in many ways that flying drones is not just, a pastime, but it can be a career opportunity and a growing career opportunity. I think in the years ahead, if like Amazon's talking about delivering packages via drone, there's going to be plenty of opportunities for drone pilots to find work or to find a career. I think the more we can invest in letting young people know about that, the better. I think even at our county level, the assessor's office uses somebody who flies drones around to do assessments of properties, right? So I mean, just letting people know kind of what is out there, I think is another valuable piece of your work.
That's wonderful. Yeah, and you are totally correct. I mean, the drone operation industry is growing, and you got assessments. You can do, inspection of industrial sites where it's either too dangerous for individuals to do so, or anyway. So you are singing our songbook. We are right there with you. It's a wonderful career path, and I do think it's really exciting to see young kids and young folks get involved. Much smarter than I am, that's for sure. But it's wonderful to see everything take off. So, and I thank you guys both, as well as your staff and Tacoma City Council, for being such good stewards. I mean, I don't think that what you guys did was necessarily revolutionary in terms of the actual process, but in terms of the achievement, I haven't seen any other city council lead the way as much as you guys have. So, we really much thank you. I think that it's great timing with National Drone Safety Awareness Week. We will do our darndest to continue spreading the word and make the third one next year even better. But in the meantime, hopefully you guys will, have time to take part in some way. There'll be some, webinars and things you can do with your kid at home to make, like drone obstacle courses, which is really fun, in your backyard using like trash cans and things. So anyway, I really appreciate you guys making the time today. It's been wonderful, and we are always here as a resource, so please don't be strangers.
Thank you, Jackie. Those are very kind words, and we don't always get really kind words after we pass resolutions or policy making here. So I'm trying to I'm thinking, wow, listen to that. We are happy to engage with you moving forward, or other municipalities, and we just appreciate you paying attention to detail and finding us and bringing us on board here. And just the final thing I want to say is that when it comes to governance and leadership, it's really all about the people that you work with. And we were able to move this forward in short order because, number one, we have really great staff at the City of Tacoma. And number two, we have great collaboration with the members of our City Council. And it matters. Those relationships matter. And so I'm proud and happy to be part of the City Council in Tacoma and serve our constituents and our drone operators and our wannabe drone operators that live in our fine city here.
That's wonderful. Alrighty, well, thank you all so much for your time. Please send your staff and Don Lisa specifically a huge thank you from me as well. And I look forward to keeping in touch.
Send us a reminder about when National Drone Safety Awareness Week is, and we'll speak to it from the DS, whether it's virtual or whether it's in person. We'll continue to promote it.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I will follow up with that information shortly.
Okay, good
Thank
deal.
you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, John.
Yeah.